NFL Combine training, you take a college system that for 4 years has done the same thing. We have squatted them, we've bench pressed them, and we've power cleaned them. They have maxed that out. So wouldn't it logically make sense that if your career were on the line and you had 10 weeks to prepare, that you would definitely do something that was different, that could improve your speed, that could improve your vertical, that could improve your lateral movement, and potentially improve your draft status. When you look around the whole country and how it's being done and everybody just sticking to their guns that, oh, we've got to keep squatting them. Well, what, you're going to now, after 4 years, get this extra bit of improvement in another 8 weeks of doing the same thing again? Well, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I expect different results. And to do that, you have to use different methods. What we attempt to do that's different is we are going to plyometrically strength train these people in a very short amount of time to see what drastic gains we can get in terms of improving their 40, improving their vertical, improving their lateral movement, and we will of course still address the 225 rep test. The first thing you've got to do is assess what's wrong with them. Most of these guys will come in injured, and you have to solve that quickly. The second thing is figuring out what muscle deficiencies they have, muscle imbalances they have that are limiting their power. Each muscle has to balance with the others in terms of strength, power, and flexibility. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have muscle tear, and you're certainly not going to maximize their performance ability. To improve somebody's 40 time, you essentially have to turn them into a track athlete very quickly. The start is the key to a successful 40. So understanding what your start position is, how you can best maximize your force coming out, because your first step alone should cover the first yard and a half, and now you're running a 38.5 yard dash, not a 40. It's all about being as efficient with the distance you're running in a shortest amount of time. The other side of the coin is how do you improve the power in a very short amount of time? Well, they've been weightlifting their whole career, so you're not going to just keep weightlifting and they get more power out of that. If a muscle is tightened down and shortened, then how can it possibly produce maximal force in a plyometric movement when it has to stretch out and explode very quickly? It can't. And even if it does, it's just going to explode out and tear. By using the throw-off mechanism, we teach the athlete to catch the weight and throw it very quickly with their legs. They are able to neurologically train their brain to start producing their force much quicker. You are teaching the athlete to produce the maximum amount of force in the shortest amount of time. By addressing the biomechanics of it, by improving their plyometric power, and also addressing their muscle balance, muscle symmetry, flexibility, and joint mobility, you have a chance to get improvements in an 8 to 10 week period. For the bench press test, the whole focus has got to be on increasing the number of repetitions. So to get anything up over 20, you really have to actually focus on the strength improvements in the eccentric loading. We will add pressure by pushing down on the weight mechanism on the SuperCap machine to force your eccentric strength to come up. I can add more pressure to that than you could ever possibly lift. There's a big difference between weight pressure and weight load. So if you were under 600 pounds of actual weight, your arms would just collapse. The minute you can feel the athlete not being able to sustain the pressure, you just release it. And there's no further risk of any type of injury. So we'll have them resist in 3 different positions isometrically, while they're also having to move it back and forth concentrically and eccentrically. And by focusing on moving the weight explosively, you're able to bring up their strength very quickly. Plyometric is a quick, explosive ability by definition. So what we do is an exercise called throw-offs, where the athlete actually has to throw 225 pounds up and off his chest repeatedly. That is much harder than just moving a bench back and forth at this rate of speed. By plyometrically strength training it, by training the eccentric abilities and its holding abilities, you can increase the endurance of the muscular apparatus in the chest pretty quickly. And you can expect to get about a 20% increase. If you look at a jumping movement specifically, jumping involves a very quick, explosive movement, and it's a combined between the feet, the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the alignment of the spine. And then it's the accelerating capacity of the arms to time itself properly with the feet. Now it's done in a difficult fashion for the combine because you're standing still. It doesn't allow you to use movement to help you energetically. So you'll need starting strength, accelerating strength, speed strength to all help you do that. But the most significant thing that's missed in trying to get a vertical jump higher is the fact that in a plyometric movement, the muscle has to stretch out very quickly. It has to be relaxed to be able to do that, not under heavy weight load like you're doing with a squat. The force changeover comes from the movement down and then back up. That's called an eccentric to concentric changeover. The person that can change it over the fastest is going to be your best athlete every time. And it applies to running, jumping, it won't matter.
That's it.
I felt it.
You gotta feel that talking about stuff.
It almost felt like I wasn't using energy.
The 5-10-5 test and the L-cone test I would lump into one category.
You wanna come down, touch, and push. It becomes a spring load.
Improving somebody's change of direction means that you're going to have to improve their awareness in space on how they're moving their body. So if you combine the efficiency in terms of the number of steps they're allowed to do and you maximize that, you improve the balance capabilities, the strength capabilities of their feet, make sure that they're understanding the proper postural alignment they're going to need to be able to move quickly in a very short space, then you have a very realistic chance of dropping their time. By using the isokinetic machine that we have here, you are able to highly stimulate the central nervous system in a functional movement pattern. That's important because the movement pattern has to be exact in terms of how they're using it in their sport, running, jumping specifically. When I can put somebody on there without fear of injury, I have no worry about the amount of time I have, which is only about 8 weeks, to get this job done. We can get high reps done. We have no delayed onset muscle syndrome, so we don't lose training days like a conventional weight system does. We're able to get more work done in a shorter amount of time in a functional movement pattern that will directly affect their speed and their movement. The lateral movement abilities are what separate any NFL player. Everybody's pretty fast. The ability to change direction comes from the awareness and strength in your feet and in your hips and in your core stabilization ability. And if you can change those things, you can get improvement quickly in all of these tests. Most of the combine around the country becomes almost a factory of just come in here and then do a few more lifts, we'll do some sprints and do this, and then just show up in your pro day and hope it all works out. There's got to be a more professional attitude to it than that. And it certainly has to have a more scientific basis to the human body and how it works in sports, because it is not a squat. And a power clean is not going to solve your problems in terms of your vertical, your lateral movement, your movement abilities, or anything else in an 8-week period when you've already been doing it for 4 years.